Hello everyone, this is Tarek and welcome to our first video tutorial for using animations in the classroom, delivered by yours truly, Tarek Bhatt. Now before we actually dive into this tutorial, let's talk about what we will be learning. So in terms of the learning objectives, first we're going to be talking about how we can prepare a lesson plan with clear learning objectives that can be achieved through animation. Now, obviously, preparing the lesson plan is a group activity that I would expect you to conduct with your peers or on your own, but I can definitely share some tips and tricks and also some resources that I like to use when I'm preparing my lesson plans. Once we've gone through the basics of how we can prepare a lesson plan that can be used with animation, we're actually going to design and develop an animation using the standard Puppet libraries for Adobe Character Animator. Now, I call them the standard Puppet libraries even though they have been developed by some third parties, and I'll show you the third parties, three of the third parties that I like the most in terms of Adobe Character Animator characters. So I call them the standard Puppet libraries because the characters and the puppets are so well developed and they integrate so well with Adobe Character Animator, even though they are not part of the suite or the libraries that you would get with your Adobe Character Animator app in the Creative Cloud. So without further ado, let's first talk about preparing a lesson plan focusing mostly on learning objectives. Now, my go-to resource for preparing learning objectives is Bloom's Taxonomy. And the image that you see in front of you right now comes from Wikipedia, actually. It's an image that was developed that demonstrates visually Bloom's taxonomy with the 6 levels of learning. The first one being knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and the 6th is evaluation. And as you go from 1 to 6, you are engaging your learners in higher and higher levels of learning. I'm going to zoom in a little bit now on the knowledge. What kind of activities would you have for knowledge? You would have select, list, name, and so on and so forth. For comprehension, you have match, restate, paraphrase. For application, organize, generalize. For analysis, compare, analyze, classify, and so on. For synthesis, compose, originate, hypothesize. And for number 6, evaluation, judge, relate, weight. I'm obviously not going through all of them, but I am showing you what each of the learning objectives or the learning action verbs are for each level of learning. Now, where does animation fit in? I find that animation fits in really well with number 1, knowledge, number 2, comprehension. This is common in the explainer videos that you see. Sometimes you'll see explainer videos for a particular app, a particular phenomena, a particular scientific, social occurrence, and those are knowledge and comprehension type animations and videos. I also find that animation works really well when you're dealing with the number 4 type of learning, which is analysis. Compare, analyze, classify, point out, distinguish. And how can you plug in videos? Well, you can plug in videos into the analysis type of learning by showing your learners a video and then asking them to break it down to discuss in a group and analyze what they've seen. So those are some of the ways in which you can develop learning objectives that fit well with animations. Now, moving on to the animations themselves. One of the activities that you were expected to conduct as part of your first workshop in this class was to actually sketch out and storyboard an animation that you would like to use based on your either your area of expertise or an area that you would like to develop expertise in, or an area of interest for you. So it can be science, it can be the social sciences, it can be the language area or literature, whatever it is. that suits you, where you would like to develop an animation. Now, once you have those storyboards ready, I'm going to go with a particular area that works well for me, where I have a puppet that is probably my favorite, and do things in that area. So, first of all, where are these standard puppets available? First, there's a site called Graphic Mama. And when you go into Graphic Mama, go into the character animator puppets and filter them by free. That's what I've done. If you want to pay for the puppets, don't filter them by free. And they're available for a nominal amount. I think most of them go for roughly $63, $40, in that range. And those are some of the puppets that are available. But I've selected the free option, and you can see that there are 8 puppets that are available. And the puppets vary from human characters to a fish, to a penguin, to a gingerbread man, and Santa Claus. Now, another great resource in terms of puppets is OK Samurai. Now, I find with OK Samurai, the puppets are so well developed and they have so many features. One of my favorite puppets from OK Samurai, as I scroll down, I will show you. One of my favorite puppets from this site is this superhero girl called Crimson. And Crimson has all kinds of great powers. You can use keyboard strokes for her to shoot balls of fire and all kinds of magical stuff. She's a bit hard to control, so we're not going to pick Crimson for this particular tutorial. The last site that I'm going to show you for character animator puppets is Heads of Curriculum. And the URL for Heads of Curriculum is simply headsofcurriculum.com. And as you scroll down, you will see they've got all kinds of characters. So they've got these ones that are great, but a little bit on the boring side, I think. They're great if you're doing any kinds of animations that are more for the corporate world. But if you want to have more fun with your puppets and with character animator, then there are all these fun ones down here. There's Romeo, there's Juliet, there's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, there's Goethe, there's Queen Elizabeth I, Albert Einstein, and this guy, who's probably my favorite, William Shakespeare, just because I love doing his voice, and I love portraying him as this arrogant playwright who has all kinds of disdain for the audience. And Shakespeare, as far as characters go, is one that can be easily plugged into a lot of lessons, especially if you're in the languages and literature area. So let's click William Shakespeare. There you go. That's what he's going to look like. And let's download him. Now, when you download these puppets, for me, they download by default into my downloads folder. There he is right there. And it's going to download as a zip file. So what we're going to do is, what I like to do is I'm just going to cut him. You can extract him as well. I just cut him and I paste him into one level above. So now I have the William Shakespeare puppet available right here. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to launch Adobe Character Animator. And once we've launched Adobe Character Animator, it launches by default into my previous project, but I'm going to open up a new project, right? And we'll call it Character Animator Project 4, right? We're going to start a new scene, and we'll call it Shakespeare. And we're going to import 2 files. So our first file is going to be William Shakespeare, whom we just downloaded. And the second file that we're going to download or we're going to import into Character Animator, is the Globe Theater, which is going to serve as the background for my little animation. Right, once I have imported all of them, you'll see that they're going to show up right here in my project window. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to open up my Shakespeare scene, and I'm just going to drag the Globe Theater background in there. Right, so now I've set this up for HD 1080. That's how I set up the image. So it shows up perfectly in the new scene, Globe Theater. And I'm going to drop Shakespeare into that scene as well. And there he is, right? His eyes look kind of wonky right now, but we're going to fix that. And how do we fix it? So there are a couple of things that I like to do. Before we even get into the couple of things, you'll notice that these puppets from Heads of Curriculum are so well integrated with Adobe Character Animator that I don't even have to do anything. It is looking at me, my camera is looking at me, and it's picking up the movement of my lips, and it's already animating the character based on the movement of my lips. My eyes, though, don't quite look like that. It is blinking, but my eyeballs seem to be rolled all the way up. So we'll fix that. There are always little tweaks that you need to make, even though these characters and these puppets are so well integrated. There are always little tweaks that you will need to make. On the right of this window, I'm gonna zoom into this for the properties of the puppet. On the right, you'll see a few attributes. You've got the dragger, the eye gaze, the face, lip sync, physics, and transform. First, we're going to look at the transform. Now, I like putting my puppets on the right side of the screen. So you can just drag him until you're happy with his position. Or if you already know what his position is going to be, what the X value is going to be, you can just enter that. I think I would like him to be at about the 420, right there, right? Now it looks like he's on screen for an interview. He's already talking because he's built Shakespeare and he knows what to say always. Let's close out the transform and let's go into the lip sync. Now, how is the lip syncing going to work? It's going to work based on the audio input. So basically whatever Character Animator is picking up through my mic, the lips on my character are being synced based on that. We're happy with that and we'll keep it there. Next we'll go into the face. Right? Now in terms of the face, you'll notice that this character is moving around a bit too much. It seems to be a bit too responsive to the movements that Character Animator is picking up with the camera. So I don't want it to be that responsive. So in terms of the head position strength, it's at 45 right now. I'm going to keep it at 45. In terms of the head scale strength, it's at 5. I'm going to keep that at 5 as well. In terms of the head tilt strength, I'm going to bring that down a little bit. I'm going to bring that down to about 10. And I think that is a little better. All right. The last set of values, the last set of attributes that we're going to look at is the eye gaze. Now, I'm very particular with what my characters do with their eyes because there's a lot you can do in terms of creating the proper effect if you direct the gaze of the character where you want it to be. And I find that the camera doesn't always do a great job of picking up the eye gaze and putting the eyeballs where I want them. Now you have three options here. I'm going to zoom in. Your first option is the camera input. So the position of the eye will be determined based on what the camera is reading. The second option is mouse and touch input. So you can use your mouse to move the eyes around. Or the last option, which is my favorite, which is keyboard input. I'm going to select that. Right? Now what keyboard input allows you to do is I just press the down key on my keyboard and the left key, the right key, the up key, the down key, Now you can see that now I have complete control over this character and what they're doing with their eyes. All right, how do we start recording? Very simple. You see the big red circle right over here. It's a little red circle actually, but that's the standard record button. I'm gonna get into character as William Shakespeare and we'll record a short animation and you'll see how simple it is. So here I go. I'm gonna press the record button.
Hello, Bill Shakespeare here. Is everyone here? Is everyone here? Is everyone here? Do I have to wait? Alright, well, I'm starting anyway. Here I go. Hello everyone, and welcome to my lecture.
That was my Bill Shakespeare voice. And it was picked up by the camera and by the audio. And I'm going to play it back to you. Here we go.
Hello, Bill Shakespeare here. Is everyone here? Is everyone here? Is everyone here? Do I have to wait? Alright, well, I'm starting anyway. Here I go. Hello everyone, and welcome to my lecture.
Alright, maybe not perfect, but we'll stick with that. Now, once you've got a version of your animation that you're happy with, you can export it by going to File, Export, Video via Adobe Media Encoder. Let's launch Video Media Encoder. I'm going to go into the appropriate folder, which is Shakespeare, and we're going to call this scene the Globe Theatre. Right. Once you've defined where the file is going to go, Adobe Character Animator and Adobe Creative Cloud working together is going to open up Media Encoder. And in Media Encoder, you can set the options for your video and you can start exporting it. There's the scene that you want to export. You can set the values for the output right here. There's a little preview. You can set the values for your resolution right here. And you can select where the file is going to be placed once it is rendered right there. We're happy with all of those. Just press the green play button and it will start encoding. And I'm not using any special machine over here. It's a standard Asus laptop. The encoding doesn't take that long for me. For that little 10-12 second clip that we recorded, it takes about 3 minutes. And the quality is fairly high. I am doing this in HD 1080. I'm not going to keep you guys waiting while the rendering happens. That's going to be the end of video tutorial number 1.